All right, so week one, I showed you why your DMs aren't converting. Week two, I gave you three questions: situation, gap, relevance, and the qualifying checklist. And if you actually did the homework, you probably already noticed that your conversations are lasting longer, right? People are opening up more, they're telling you things they probably wouldn't tell a stranger in the DMs. Sweet, cool, great. You're having better conversations now. But here's the problem that nobody actually warns you about next. You can have the best qualifying conversations in the world. You know the situation, you know the gap, you made it relevant, and then when you get to the moment where you actually need to bring up your offer, you freeze, right? Because it was going so well. You were vibing, they were sharing, it felt natural. And now you actually have to say something about your program, your service, or your coaching. And suddenly it feels like you're about to ruin the whole thing, right? Like the second you bring up business, the whole energy shifts and they're going to pull back. So, what do most people do, right? One of two things. Either A, they panic, pitch you early, and they go, oh, by the way, I have this program, here's the link. And you just put up like a brick wall in the middle of the conversation. It's kind of like you're on a first date and everything's going great, and you pull out a ring and get on a knee way too fast, right? They weren't ready, you weren't ready, and you just kind of got scared and jumped and did something random. Or, and this is honestly worse, they never bring up anything at all. The conversation was so good, they just didn't want to ruin it, so they just kept chatting, kept vibing, keep being friendly, and the prospect has a lovely conversation and goes about their day and never buys anything. That's essentially the friend zone, right? You basically just volunteered to be their therapist for free. Neither one of those things works. And the reason is that there's an actual move for this moment. It's not a trick. It's not some like slick closer line. It's a transition, right? So there's a specific point in the conversation where you go from I'm getting to know you to I might have something to help you. And it's natural, right? It doesn't feel forced. It doesn't feel salesy. And if anything, it makes them lean in a little harder. And I call it the turn, right? And once you see it, you really can't unsee it. You're going to notice it everywhere in good sales conversations, maybe podcasts, in regular life when people are persuading someone else. There's always a turn, right? And the people who are good at it can make it invisible. The people who are bad at it, it kind of feels like a car commercial just like interrupted your favorite show, right? So here's what I'm giving you today. First, the warm up move that comes right before the turn, right? So I'm calling it the bottle opener, right? It's one question, takes 5 seconds, sets the whole thing up. And then I'm giving you the exact 4-part formula for the turn itself: the words, the structure, the sequence, and I'm going to show you real conversations so you can see the difference between a turn that works and one that kills the vibe, right? And I'm going to show you the single biggest mistake that people make right after the turn, because even if you nail it, this one thing will undo it all. Let's get into it. All right, well, let's hop right into the presentation. It's going to be how to make an offer without killing the conversation and the exact transition that makes people say, tell me more, right? And so let's hop right into it. The awkward moment or the scenario that we want to set up, right? Maybe you're talking to someone in the DMs right now. You have a good conversation with them, you got good rapport, but then now you actually got to bring up your offer, or like make a sale, quote unquote, right? Or pitch them, and then you freeze because you don't want to ruin the vibe, right? Conversation's flowing, everything is going good, they seem interested, they seem warm and everything, right? And so you just don't want to, ruin the vibe for whatever reason. So pitching too early or like getting to the sales part too fast usually looks something like this, right? It's like I'm in the middle of the conversation. I say, thanks for sharing. I actually have a program that helps you exactly with that. Here's the link. Check it out, right? Usually, if we're doing something like this, it's too fast, right? It's too pitchy. We're not like really trying to talk to the prospect and get to know them and understand how to make this relevant for them, right? Understand their situation. If we go back to the last video, right? If we're saying something like that, so usually what that means is that I'm just trying to get through the conversation and pitch them, right? And that's like never going to work. Conversation's always going to die right there 100% of the time, right? And then so that's like the too early of the pitch. And then here's like the too late of the pitch, or like where you never actually get to it, right? We're like, hey, that's so interesting. Yeah, I totally get that. Ha, nice for sure. You have like a really nice chat with them, but you're not going to make any money because you're their buddy, right? They put you in the friend zone essentially. And the friend zone is like the worst place to be in sales, because the people don't buy from their friends, right? People buy from people who have that are credible, have a solution, and they know that the solution is going to help this person regardless of if it's a friend or not, right? So the solution here, there's an exact moment where you do the move, which I call the turn, right? And basically it's not a trick, it's not a line, it's basically a transition, right? And it's a clear transition from when someone knows that we're having a regular conversation to now we're in a sales conversation, and I need to be like, and I'm going to start qualifying them, right? They need to be aware of that situation happening. So that's what I call the turn, right? But before the turn, before you get into that, you're going to need the bottle opener first, right? Which is like a light question that starts a real conversation. Kind of think of it like your first beer at a bar, right? Now, granted, this depends. And what do I mean it depends? It depends on how someone messages you, right? If someone just like straight up, outright, inbound messages you, start asking questions, stuff like that, you really don't need the bottle opener, right? But there's a lot of scenarios, and most people online are using lead magnets to promote their offers, right? So we're collecting emails and different things like that, and also doing outbound, right? So maybe someone commented on your post, but they didn't comment the keyword that you wanted to get them in the conversation, but they commented nonetheless, and it seems like they could be a buyer, right? In those scenarios, you're going to need the bottle opener because you're not just going to go pitch this person immediately on the first DM, right? So before the turn, first you need the bottle opener, and we'll get more into that in just a second as the presentation goes on, right? What is the bottle opener there like? What does that look like? So the look, it looks like this, right? Hey, just curious, what do you know about DM sales systems, right? It's a very light question, right? Like I said, imagining that you're at a bar, you're hanging out, right? You and your friends all just got your first drink, right? So you don't want to get deep into the conversation, like super far into it, but you kind of want to start it off light. So that's the bottle opener, right? We're starting it off light. We're kind of leading the conversation a little bit. So we say, hey, just curious, what do you know about DM sales system? They go, honestly, not much. I've been posting and hoping people buy. I've tried a few things, mini chat, some scripts, but nothing consistent, right? So again, great bottle opener, great answer from them. Okay, now why this works, it's non-threatening, right? Nobody feels sold when you ask what they know about something. Calibrates your language, right? So you know immediately if they're a beginner, if they're experienced, right? If they're a beginner, you want to keep it more simple. If they're experienced, you want to skip the basic and kind of get to it, right? And it starts qualifying naturally, right? Because the people are going to start slightly opening up about their situation without you having to force them to open it, right? And when do you skip this, right? If they DM you first, we're going to skip the bottle opener. We're going to go right into qualifying, right? The main event, what is this? It's the turn, right? So we talked about this before in a couple scenarios, but I want to iterate this again in just a second, right? So the turn is a transition from a casual conversation to a qualifying conversation or a sales conversation, right? And if we get this right, they're going to lean in, and we get it wrong, they kind of shut down, right? And the biggest thing with the turn, as I personally discovered, right, is whenever you're in the DMs with someone, a lot of people will try to pitch them way too fast without doing this. And so the doing this is very important for the prospect because now they mentally know that they're going to be sold. There's plenty of times where people are just having a conversation with you, but they're not ready to be sold yet. And so if you get into them a conversation and you start pitching, then it kind of rubs them the wrong way, right? So the turn formula, right? So we're going to, acknowledge the pivot. So it's like, hey, this is kind of out of left field, but, and then two, we're going to add who we're looking for, right? Hey, this is kind of out of left field, but I'm looking for a few more motivated people who want to, right? Name the system, not your product, your system, give it a name they remember, and the big outcome, right? So putting that together, it'd be like, hey, this is kind of out of left field, but I'm looking for a few more motivated people who want to use my PAM system to sell in the DMs without phone calls and everything like that, right? That's a really basic version of what I just said, but that's the term, right? And you're going to see an example in just a minute too. So, hey, this is kind of out of left field, but I'm looking for a few more motivated people who want to build a consistent client pipeline using my DM revenue system to close high-ticket sales entirely through text. Would you be open to learning more? Yeah, actually, that sounds really interesting. So this is a turn, right? So imagine now I'm having a conversation with someone. Maybe they opted in for my lead magnet, right? Or maybe they commented on my post about my lead magnet, right? We're chatting with them a little bit. I was like, hey, what made you comment? Or hey, what do you know about DM sales? They tell me a little about their situation, right? And then I go into this. So before I start pushing them into the qualifying process, I'm going to use this turn question. So it's like, hey, this is kind of out of left field, da-da-da-da-da, right? That's the context for how this is used. And why out of left field actually works, right? It's honest. You're acknowledging the pivot. That builds trust. And sliding into a pitch without warning feels like a friend that, invites you to dinner and then pulls out an MLM presentation, right? The secret, right? Don't sell a program, sell a named system, right? So whenever you're talking to people in the DMs and everything like that, and this is more of like a sales and offer mechanics thing, right? But the secret is you're not selling a program, you're selling a system. Not a program, a system. Now, the system can include a program, right? But you're selling a system. Cool. So generic, right? So generic for the pitch. I have a course on marketing. I do coaching for entrepreneurs. I help people grow online. all these can be anyone else in the space that I could pick a random person right now online and I could find them with this in their profile, right? But if you have a named system, like a thing that you have, right? That's now unique to you, and that's what makes people more interested, right? And then naming a system makes it seem more established, more real, right? Like it seems like more of a fully put together idea. So name system, right? The DM revenue system could be the pipeline accelerator, could be the flip method, right? It sounds specific, which means that it underlying basically means that it feels proven and real at the same time, right? Remember, the outcome. The people that we're talking to here, when we're talking to them, right, they are buying results from us, not the features, okay? So when we're talking to them, right, we want to make sure that we're very clear on results, not features. So here's a good example, right? Like the result that they're buying or the outcome that they're buying, right, is closed deals through text without phone calls, right? That's like the main outcome that people buy from me, right? Now, the features that they're going to get is coaching, they got modules, they got text, like they can outreach us, we have AI for them, different things like that, right? All that stuff matters, but they gotta want the result. They gotta want the outcome first. Then they get the features. So result, outcome, and features. Perfect. Now, another thing to remember here is not every conversation needs a turn, right? We iterated this earlier, but I want to reiterate this point again as well because we talked a lot about the turn in this presentation, right? It depends on how they came to you, and then there's 3 different approaches for that, right? So now imagine the 3 entry paths, okay? So like I said before, if someone just like straight up DMs you, right, like off of your CTA and your call to action that you used for the post was like, hey, DM me if you're interested in learning more about my program, right? Please do not use the turn. Just go right into qualifying immediately if your CTA is like that, right? But if you are, let's say, a lead magnet, doing a lead magnet call to actions where people are getting a freebie from you, right? Then we want to use the turn in this conversation. We want to deliver it first, then do the bottle opener, then do the turn, right? Same thing for outbound, right? So if you're outreaching someone cold, right, you're going to do the personal opener, then you're going to do the gift, then you're going to do the bottle opener and leading questions, and then you're going to do the turn, right? And if you guys are curious about how to do outbound the right way, I actually have another YouTube video. I'll probably link it in the comments below where you can see this process really broken out in high detail so you can see exactly all the steps that I'm doing here as well. But that's in another video. Cool. And remember, the warmer they are, the less setup you need, right? So you're going to match your approach to their temperature. You don't need to overdress for a casual hangout is what it says right here, but you don't need to pitch too hard if they're already sold is where I'm kind of thinking, right? You know, some of these people, their experience level with your offer is going to be high. So like, for example, if you sell social media marketing, right, then, you know, social media marketing creators, right, then, you know, their experience level with social media is going to be very, very high. So you don't necessarily need to go through all of the specific same details depending on their level of experience, right? And that's what it means here with warmer. So to me, it's like two phases, right? It's not only like how much product knowledge or how much information they know about your thing, but then also the warmer they are to you, right? So if they've been following your content for like 6 months, 8 months, like a year, right? All those people are going to buy much quicker and may not need as long of a process as others because they're warmer, right? They've got more face time with you. So the thread that I want you to remember here for this whole presentation as we go through, just kind of like to keep it all there, right? We talked about the turn and basically making sure that it doesn't feel awkward to transition to a sales conversation, right? But more importantly than that, like overarchingly in the entire DM sales process, every step is permission-based, right? You're never pushing forward, you're asking along the way, and every yes that they say moves them forward. Very key, right? Throughout the whole process that we're having conversations with people, they are requesting every single step of the way. I am not pushing it on them. And you'll see an example right here, right? This is the chain of yeses. So in our qualifying process, right, we're going to say, hey, mind if I ask you a few questions? Or maybe we would say, would you be open to learning more? Want me to send you something that breaks it down, right? So once we actually say, hey, would you like some help, you know, learning how to monetize through the DMs without phone calls? And they're like, yes. And it's like, cool. Mind if I send you something to break it down? Or want me to send something that breaks it down? Yes. Right? Then we'll send them the video. Does everything make sense about the video you just saw? Yes. Are you ready to get started? Yes. Right? You'll notice everything here is a question that I'm asking, and I'm prompting them to say yes to move that conversation forward to the next step. I'm not pushing anything. And that's really key with DMs if you want to make sales and convert correctly, right? If the close feels like a pitch, then you skip steps earlier, right? The close should feel like a formality. And if it doesn't, that means that you did a bad job above, right? So scroll up, the set is the close. Now, I hate this, and this is probably one of those things that's like the sales faux pas that I've seen like hundreds of times at this point, right? Never just say just checking in, right? It just means that I have nothing new to say, but I hope you change your mind. Bring value instead. So in the cases of people where they ghost you, or maybe they're not responsive as you would like, or anything like that, right? Never follow up with just checking in, right? Say something valuable. Say, like, ask a question. Do something different than just saying just checking in. Not a good follow-up. So the other thing I want to talk to you about is like the types of ways that you should type, right? So when you're talking to people, and we've tested this over thousands of conversations, right? If you write long paragraph essays to a prospect, you'll very likely get ghosted. It's different whenever they're talking to us, right? But whenever you're talking to a prospect, if you write like essays, you have a very high chance of getting ghosted because they stopped at reading, right? They just didn't want to read all that stuff. It's just a lot to read, right? So what we want to do is we want to send like line by line messages, right? So instead of like, so right here in the essay mode, so basically what we do is we help creators build a system that generates consistent leads to social media. They convert those leads into paying clients using a combination of automated DM sequences and personal outreach, right? That's just like so wordy and not it, right? So a little more concise way to do it. Hey, we help creators build a lead system. It turns followers into paying clients, all through DMs, no phone calls. Boom, easy, right? So whenever you're talking to people in text and DMs, right, we want to be more like this, more snappy, and less like this, less essay, right? Next thing, really big rule for questions, right? One question per message, right? If you try to stack multiple questions, then they're going to answer one of the questions, right? Now, there are some scenarios where you can ask a double question, right? And then they can choose an option, but never more than two. And if anything, always stick to one, right? Makes it super easy. Remember, conversations have a rhythm, so don't like break that rhythm. One question per message, wait for an answer, or two questions on that message if they're kind of relevant or they give them a split option, and then wait for the answer. Right. So the full map so far, as we've kind of gone through, right? So in week 1, we covered why DMs work. Week 2, we covered qualifying, right? Week 3, which is now, we're covering the turn, the bottle opener, phase, permission, all that stuff, right? And so week number 4, we're coming objection overcoming and like what to do after the offer is shown, right? So your homework for today is number 1, I need you to name your system. Like whatever you sell it, give it a name right now, write it down. You know, that's your system. That's the thing you do, right? Number 2, I want you to write your version of the turn. So the pivot, who you're looking for, the name, system, and the big outcome, right? And then number 3, know your entry paths, right? So you should build a flow based on the entry paths that are coming in. So if people are coming in inbound, build a flow for that. People coming in through lead magnets, flow for that. People mostly through outbound, for that, right? We want to build a good chat flow conversation or script for how your leads actually are coming into your system right now. The best transitions feel natural, okay? They don't even know that it happened. They just know that they want to learn more. So remember this as a key quote for you today as you take this and start implementing things for yourself, okay? So make sure to subscribe. I'm going deeper every single week. Frameworks, real conversations, stuff I don't really share anywhere else. I got some books down in the description. And then otherwise, I will see you in the next video. Peace.